Good morning to you viewers in St. Lucia and St. Lucians listening in the diaspora. We thank you so much for tuning in. We are live from the GIS studios, live on NTN. This is the Information Command Center for COVID-19. This is St. Lucia's COVID-19 response report for today. We have quite a few updates to provide to you this morning, as well as looking back on some of the developments and how it will continue to affect us. COVID-19 will continue to affect us going into the medium term. Again, a special good morning to you. My name is Jessie Léonce, and I'm joined in studio as usual this morning by my colleague Carlton Cyril. Good morning, Carlton.
Good morning, Jessie. Merci tellement. Encore, moi dis bonjour et merci pour qui toujours écouter nous et vous qui attend nous à sur radio, ou qui l'autre pays et bien qui suivre nous sur internet là nous dit bonjour tellement toujours un plaisir. Aujourd'hui c'est mardi le 12 mai et puis quand la coutume nous en headquarters vermin COVID-19 ici à nous avons information développement quand après coup tout ça qui nous pour faire et puis COVID les après place nous avons information ça c'est toujours un plaisir pour nous dire bonjour pour vous qui l'autre pays nous apprécier tellement expressement là on a quitté yon des mots paroles là sur Facebook avec moi des questions nous apprécier ça pour ces gens radio nous tout aussi nous a dit merci à de manière qui spéciale. Aujourd'hui, moi, je voulais un petit pour dire pour toutes nos expressions, c'est ça qui a combattu féminin, Rodia, et puis Simon qui a absorbé Jounos, et puis président, moi, changez bien, moi, d'or, Jesse, qui dit, seul bagaille, changez-nous. Eh bien, nous changer les autres, et nous, qui dit, nous apprécions le travail là, qui a fait, grâce à Dieu pour hot, avec bénédiction pour hot tout, et nous, va continuer des autres précautions. Pas de temps hot ka travail quoi pour toutes nous ni une bonne semaine qu'on hot ka observer jour nos Jesse.
Thank you very much for that. We want to start with this morning's program to let you guys know that St. Lucia has received another 55 negative test results, and we're seeing that there has been an increase in testing so far, and we have had another 55 test results being churned out and coming out as negative. Thank the gods. As of May 11th, 2020, just reading from a press release from the Department of Health and Wellness, as of May 11th, 2020, St. Lucia has recorded a total of 18 confirmed cases of COVID-19. 17, as we've been saying, are fully recovered and have reintegrated into their communities. We have one active case, and that individual is currently in hospital care and is responding well to the treatment and recovering well as well. On Monday, 11th May 2020, results for 55 samples were received, and they were all negative. And this brings the total number of tests conducted in St. Lucia to date at 675. On Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, the Department of Health and Wellness will receive 20 St. Lucians who are cruise ship workers on the Carnival Glory, and these nationals shall be in quarantine for a period of 14 days as per the country's established protocol. Over the next few weeks, we will continue to receive other St. Lucian cruise workers and eventually our returning nationals. Now, I'm not sure, our communications may have been mixed, but I see that we will receive the Carnival Glory cruise ship workers. They will be repatriated today. So please take note of that we hope that you do stay away from the port. Don't try to go in there because there's very important work going on in terms of getting our 12 cruise line, our 20 St. Lucians who are cruise ship workers from the Carnival Glory this morning. The department once again asks the public to work with us to reduce the impact of COVID-19. Our returning nationals are asked to abide by the quarantine protocols. We ask their relatives and loved ones to support them throughout the process. Further, if anyone is aware of an individual who has entered St. Lucia through unofficial routes, you are asked to alert the authorities. All these measures are in place to keep us all safe. St. Lucia continues to be on a 10-hour curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Some of the national protocols which apply to which apply to this remain at home, leaving for only food or medical purposes, avoid mass crowd events, and that is not even supposed to be happening, and social gatherings. However, we have observed that in practice, the recommended 6-foot distance and the use of the face masks or scarves is not being maintained, especially in the communities. And to this end, we wish to implore the public to adhere to those measures. By maintaining the recommended 6-foot distance, you reduce the likelihood of getting infected or spreading the virus when people around you may cough, sneeze, or make physical contact. The face mask or scarf should be used for source control by reducing the potential exposure risk from infected persons during the pre-symptomatic period. For face masks to be effective in reducing infection, they must be used properly. Avoid getting together in groups. Avoid getting together in groups. Avoid getting together in groups. Ensure upon return to your home that you wash your hands thoroughly before engaging in any activity. And the Department of Health and Wellness will continue providing regular updates on COVID-19. So that is the latest word from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. 55 more negative test results, which we are all grateful for. And we hear the Ministry of Health talking and reiterating and re-emphasizing and stressing the importance of all of the measures to reduce the contamination, the spread of COVID-19. And we say, oh, we've heard it already. Yes. Because we are seeing instances, there are observations from the experts, from the officials, of this continuing to persist, of persons not being consistent in exercising all of the important measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So we're saying it again and again and again, but we do hope that it settles in. Please be reminded that we are still in a state of emergency, under a state of emergency, and the curfew order is maintained. We have the curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. All of the measures regarding the state of emergency continue to rule. We do hope, of course, we're seeing persons going about their business in the city, and we're seeing quite a bit more activity in the capital. Yes. Than we had previously seen under the state of emergency, and that is because the government of Saint Lucia is working between two phases of our management of COVID-19, and that is dealing with COVID-19, but also getting into the recovery phase where we're starting to open some businesses that are quite essential at this time for persons to continue to exercise and continue to observe the orders under the state of emergency. So we do hope that despite the increased activity, that these individuals who are out and about in the capital, in the towns and so on, that you are really out there for a valid reason, and you are not out there loitering and gathering in groups and so on. You going out to get much needed supplies for your home, and you're returning. In cases where you are a part of the public service, you're going to work, and you I believe Ms. Sudat stated that public service, the business continuity plan, those who are going to work in the public service, business stops at 12. So we hope that after 12 you make the necessary arrangements to return home as soon as possible, because we're trying to contain COVID-19, we're trying to stamp out COVID-19 in Saint Lucia, and we need everybody's help. We're hearing with every press release we're getting from the Ministry of Health and Wellness now, we're hearing that if you know someone who has entered Saint Lucia, we're talking about illicit border entry, and entered Saint Lucia through unofficial means, unofficial routes, we hope that you can report this, give this information anonymously or otherwise to law enforcement, to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, so that these individuals can perhaps be quarantined and be checked to ensure that they have not brought in COVID-19 and they have not put the population at any further unnecessary risk at this time. Carlton?
Merci tellement, Jesse. Quand nous continuons, bon matin, on a dit merci pour vous qui écoutez nous, qui supporter ça nous a fait ici. Nous faut changer à présent Ici, quand la coutume, c'est headquarters COVID-19. Là, nous avons toute information, là, nous pour faire, et puis COVID. Bon matin, ou quand on appelle la qui sorti du département santé, encore pour qu'à vieux réfléchir, c'est nous, et qu'à ban nous gide, et qu'à faire un chaïdi nous changer, nous qu'à combattre 20 ça toujours. Changer, messieurs, dames, presque 300 000 moun ja mort. Changer encore presque 4 millions de moun a tout fait qu'on infecté. Grâce à Dieu, nous ni quand nous avons un rapport qui sorti hod ministre département santé, qui dit nous yo voyé 55 tests aller encore et yo tout vie négative. Merci Dieu pour date ça a fait 675 moun qui a trouvé qu'on yo testé et vous savent nous teni 18 moun qui trouvé qu'on yo affecté 18 ça 17 a oui couvert et nous était yon et qui a pris traitement bien et qui a amassé quoi bien tout bonnement quoi grâce à Dieu mais ou kaitan un rapport qui est venu là département qu'a demandé Saint Lucia toujours changer nous dans état de secours nous ca combattre vermine toujours changer messieurs ou supposé entrer en caillou les 7h soir ou supposé sortir 5h bon matin pas sorte dehors ou pas ni pour ces bagailles en place toujours ça c'est gide raison d'ailleurs encore les vini pour en chaille ces bagailles là qui mettait en place un bas protocole les vini pour moun ka été 6 pieds distance 6 pieds distance là c'est pour empêcher ou même contacter si un moun n'est pas ka mouche pièce sin et pour ou même si on n'est pour pas si merger c'est pas unique pour un style bernique bay moun pour faire pour dire nous ka fait moun wete 6 pieds parce que tout le monde ka fait là nan raison de là nan katil c'est pour ça avertissement ka vini toutes les qu'on ka tande nous ka dit ici wete 6 pieds hod yon a l'autre nous ka wè moun tout partout l'autre bagay le ka mando lan souple mas lan e bes ka flo ka men fidjayo ba we fidjayo ça c'est pour si un moun estiené ça c'est pour si ou même estiené ou ni yon mas et ou sans péché ko ou même contacter et ben bay un moun vermina l'autre bagay lan qui bien important et moi même pas ça pour qui ça moun pas capter attention pour ça c'est wete hod yon a l'autre pas sembler parmi yon a l'autre tout moun en pagal mais c'est nous poko henjewison pour covid vermin corona nous beaucoup hendre raison et c'est pour raison ça encore qu'à tant bureau santé ou qu'à tant ministère qu'à demander moun pas ensemble ensemble pas venir parmi yon à l'autre nous savons difficile pour moun wete kayo mais encore kouya ka aller pour dire est-ce que il voy pour perdre la vie ou pour trouver comme malade en wis mort parce que ou santé ou parmi moun ou pas nan rien et quand chay moun ka dit ça garçon nan rien mi c'est pas nan rien m'a brisé masse top couillon souple encore mi avertissement qu'a sorti dehors bureau santé et nous ni pour tirer chapeau ba ise moun ça qu'a dit nous encore pas venir parmi yon a l'autre pas ni un bon temps pour tout le monde combler parmi yon a l'autre mais c'est wete kayou chaîne distance là souple et l'envier kayou et ou sort dehors savonner la main si c'est sanitizer ou ni sanitize la main aussi savonner la main souple toutes ces bagailles ça mais c'est y en place toujours avec avertissement qu'on nous bien d'où ici à ces headquarters COVID là nous avons information encore bonne nouvelle 55 tests aller il vie négatif qui c'est bon ça c'est bon résultat nous attend là et yon moun seulement qui était qui a pris traitement et qui a pris tout bonnement la pani il pas pièce situation critique quoi nous a dit grâce à Dieu. L'autre bonne nouvelle, on va changer, c'est gens qui travaillent à ces bateaux. Il y en a ces bateaux qui amènent à peu près 20 moun bon matin. Carnaval Glory, encore qui a aller pour où avec public là, Saint Lucia changer ou pas supposé venir bon port, yo pas kay permettre ou ouais c'est moun ça avec activité qui ka prend coup là, laisser moun ça venir, kay trouver quoi qui conduit par ces gens là pas, ces gens qui travaillent dans les poids, département santé, département gouvernement, là venir pour ces police là, toutes ces moun ça c'est yo qui kay conduit point contrôle activité ça encore kay changer c'est moun ça ni pour aller quarantine parce que ça c'est protocole là on entrer pour yo vo et ben maintenant en quarantine pour 14 jours et encore raison de ça c'est pour faire assurer ou panique pièce c'est moun ça pas affecté pour yo ça s'immerger quand nous ka quoi moun ka écouter encore comme moi j'étais bien content les Jesse répété à peu près 6 fois moun supposé messieurs pas combler ensemble mais ces bagailles ça il faut passer nous ka combattre toujours y en a c'est l'autre bail qui bien important nous voulons dire si vous connaissez personne qui entre par la porte des personnes les venir pour activité illégale ça quand un pays parce que bon nous fermer rapporter qui bail police qui bail les autorités fait souple messieurs autant que bon matin et nous passe à dire pli passer ça bon matin souple pay attention pour protocole zoé pas ka rouper tête vers n'a pas ka marcher moun qui ka marcher. Jesse.
Thank you very much for that. We have a report from Fernell Neptune on the importance of epidemiological information, the importance of it as the Ministry of Health continues to monitor COVID-19 and to ensure that we can get a clamp down on this deadly virus. Just to give you some information, so far in terms of testing, we have tested 55 individuals. We've gotten 55 test results back as of today, all tested negative. Last week, on 8th May, we got word from the Ministry of Health and Wellness of 45 tests have been conducted, coming back negative, and 33 earlier that week coming back negative as well. And so we're seeing that the testing has been increasing on island. For those of you who are concerned, you want to know to what extent is testing being conducted. And we had a sit down with Dr. Wayne Felicia, and he spoke on a panel last week in studio and gave an update on the extent of testing, the island's testing capacity. He's the director of the Ezra Long Laboratory, and he gave us information about a more robust analyzer coming into Saint Lucia so to do the testing, as well as us getting an automated extraction device from the International Atomic Agency. So efforts are feverish. Efforts are serious. This is serious business, and we have the experts, we have the officials doing their part. And I want to piggyback on, you know, us, the population, the layman, the commoners, us just going about our daily lives, civilians, taking responsibility for ourselves and doing our part. You know, and part of doing our part is keeping a close eye in our neighborhood at any strange activity that may be going on. You may have known a friend who perhaps visited another island, and you didn't know them to have returned. They didn't bring any goodies to you from, you know, from where they came from, and said, hey, I've been back for a few weeks now, even before, you know, the borders were closed. And you're just seeing them all over again in the community. You need to keep a close eye, not only on your home, but your immediate surroundings, to ensure that, you know, we all can stay safe from the situation. We all can be protected from the situation. It is very real, you know, and make no mistake, we are doing well. There is a lot of progress that is going on in Saint Lucia. If I can make reference to the OECS head of health, she said, Dr. Carleen Raddick, she did state that Saint Lucia has been exemplary in its management of COVID-19. We're seeing in Jamaica has crossed the 500 mark in terms of cases of COVID-19. What could Saint Lucia look like with uncontrollable cases, you know, with deaths? And that is what we are trying to avoid, and that is the reason why we show up here every single day to remind you. That is why we have the experts coming on to speak to us, to give us more information. The whole point of it all is to ensure that the population is well informed. You know, I had somebody sending me a message about, you know, while we're giving information, it's important to not, you know, scare the population. It's important not to seed fear. Listen, if that is what it may take to ensure that it sinks in to everybody's mind that this COVID-19 is serious business, then that is what must be done. You know, the situation, the reality is grim, and we've seen so many deaths worldwide. Our own St. Lucians have been succumbing to COVID-19 abroad. Thankfully, no deaths in St. Lucia, but we need it to sink in, and we need persons to understand. And we reiterate the importance of physical distancing measures. We want persons to understand, it's why we come here every day, that it is important that we flatten this curve. It is important that we reduce any chances of us getting COVID-19, of our senior citizens, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our babies contracting COVID-19. If we do not do the work now, we run the risk of having an uncontrollable situation. And so that is what we're trying to prevent at this point in time. So on the part of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, testing has increased. We're hearing, first it was double digits, it was single digits at a time, and now we're hearing 33 tests being done and coming back. Then we're hearing 45 tests being done and coming back. And then we're hearing 55 tests, as in today, being done and coming back, all negative, all favorable, all good for St. Lucia. I now want to go to a news report by Fernell Neptune from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and she's talking about the importance of epidemiological information in how the Ministry of Health continues to monitor and manage COVID-19. Take a listen.
As part of monitoring COVID-19 in St. Lucia, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is utilizing its surveillance system to produce data to forecast the disease's impact on the country. National epidemiologist Dr. Michel François emphasized the need to draw data from influenza and respiratory disease surveillance in St. Lucia.
Within the epidemiology unit, one of the things that we monitor on a weekly basis is influenza-like illness. So cases of fever and cough, we monitor on a weekly basis. We have noted that these numbers have been coming down nicely, and we continue to monitor them. We also monitor on a weekly basis the number of cases of severe acute respiratory illnesses. So these are cases of fever and cough which need admission to the hospitals. So these, we have our baselines, and these are monitored, and we have not picked up increases in these numbers to date. We know that 15% of these individuals may require admission, and another 5% may require ICU admission. So we are cognizant of that, and we continue to monitor it now more than ever.
Dr. François also spoke on the efforts of the Ministry of Health to monitor deaths in St. Lucia to determine whether or not they are linked to COVID-19.
We also monitor our deaths. So hospital deaths and suspicious deaths, what we do is these individuals are tested for COVID-19, and in order for us to be sure and be confident that we do not have any COVID-related deaths.
The national epidemiologist also reiterated to date St. Lucia has recorded no deaths related to COVID-19. Reporting from the Communications Unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I am Fernell Neptune.
Thank you very much for that, Fernell. We are due for our first break, but before we go into our break, I just want to give you information. Today is the 12th of May. Today is the last day of the GoFundMe page that has been set up to raise funds to support our frontline workers and for the National Feeding Program. If it has not yet been closed, I think we'll have to confirm with our producers. If it has not yet been closed and you want to make a contribution, you can do so. Just go to the GoFundMe platform to make your contribution. I think last week, as of Friday, we had raised up to upwards of $73,000 US dollars, and the goal is $100,000 US dollars. And so we hope that we can get some word from the committee, the COVID-19 response telethon committee, on where we are at now with that. Hopefully we could speak to Ms. Jareen Georges on that. Also, if you're still, you can, even after today, you can still make donations. Anyone desirous of donating to the cause can do so via the local bank account at Bank of St. Lucia. The account number is 1045-11121. The name on the account, the National Community Foundation. And if you're abroad and you want to make a donation, the SWIFT code you can use is BOSL LCLC. So this is just a continuation of the telethon that we'd had on Easter Sunday to raise funds for PPE, personal protective equipment for frontline workers, and the National Feeding Program. We got pledges upwards of exceeding $2.5 million, and we actually received $1.8 million. We're still getting persons coming into studio, delivering their checks, business, corporate sector coming in and presenting their checks. So if you want to make a contribution, all well and good, you have the information. And we understand that not everyone can give at this time, as we've had to face some uncertainties globally with respect to COVID-19 with the pandemic. But we do appreciate your thoughts and your prayers and your well wishes toward Saint Lucia. Do stay tuned. When we come back, we have some more news reports as well as some more updates with regard to COVID-19. Stay tuned.
Coronavirus? I am worried, Gassa. It's only old people dying from that.
Hold up. Being young does not mean being safe. Yes, it's true that the elderly are at higher risk, but anyone can get the virus. The effect is even worse if you have a chronic condition like hypertension, heart disease, lung disease, and diabetes, or weakness in your immune system. If you are living with these conditions, be extra careful. Wash your hands with soap and water. Use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol when hand washing is not possible. Avoid touching your face. Take steps to boost your immunity through proper nutrition, exercise, rest, and take your medication as prescribed. Limit being around people who have flu symptoms, even close family members.
Our health is in our hands. Together, through simple actions, we can stop the spread of coronavirus. This message was brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, a special good morning to you. This is the COVID-19 response report from St. Lucia, date today, Tuesday, 12 May 2020. We continue with our updates to let you know that today, I think we have 20 cruise line workers coming through on the Carnival Glory cruise ship today. And I'm not sure, hopefully we could get some word from the Ministry of Health and Wellness on that, because initially we had word from them that they were going to all be disembarking on Friday. So hopefully we could get some confirmation, but we know we've received in press release form that 20 cruise line workers will be disembarking the Carnival Glory today. And we do hope that you stay clear of the port to allow the officials to, and the officials and the cruise line workers who are returning home the space to disembark and as soon as possible get to the quarantine facility. We heard from the CMO last week, Dr. Sharon Belmar George, confirming the immediate quarantining of all cruise line workers that are being repatriated coming from the high seas. And Friday's disembarking was the second batch of cruise line workers. So we're seeing the continuation of the second batch of cruise line workers returning home. And we also heard from the Chief Environmental Health Officer explaining the stringent disembarkation process in terms of them coming off, them being processed and being brought straight to the quarantine facility in the north of the island. Last week, we also heard from the External Affairs Minister, and she, Honorable Seraphilat Bobra, and she was the one who actually announced that we were going to have this second batch of St. Lucian cruise line workers returning within the week. And she gave us this word, and she explained everything that it took, diplomatic and otherwise, to bring these individuals home. And also on hand was the Tourism Minister, also the chair of the COVID-19 response telethon committee, speaking to us on the efforts as well that are ongoing to return more St. Lucians who are working on the cruise ships, working on the high seas right now. And we expect a third batch to come home, scheduled for the 25th of May. In total, there are 505 nationals who have been working on the high seas, and the Saint Lucian government is doing everything in its power to repatriate these individuals. And there are some who are also on solid land. You are living in the diaspora, perhaps you are a student, or you're somebody who's been living and working abroad for some time now, and due to the pandemic, you want to return home. Just to let you know from the External Affairs Ministry that you are on their priority list as well. However, the External Affairs Minister did indicate that the top priority was for the individuals who were working on the cruise ship. So hopefully later on, when we do have all our cruise ship workers back home, we will get an update on the efforts to repatriate students, repatriate St. Lucians in general who are desirous of returning home. We have a news report coming from Janelle Norville on the 219 cruise line workers part of the 219 cruise line workers that returned on Friday. Take a listen.
The Department of Health and Wellness on Friday, 8th May 2020, received some 219 St. Lucians who worked aboard the cruise ships Carnival Glory and Caribbean Princess. The receipt falls under the government of St. Lucia's efforts to repatriate individuals unable to return home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These individuals were placed into quarantine for a period of 14 days as per the country's established protocol. Chief Environmental Officer in the Department of Health and Wellness, Parker Ragnanan, explained the process undertaken by the health team.
We are doing two things. One is to looking at the medical records of the vessels and ensuring that there are no infectious diseases on board, and that's part of the review of the Maritime Declaration. After that is done, then clearance would be given for the vessel to disembark the nationals. Once the nationals disembark, they would then be screened by our medical personnel here. The screening would take two forms. One is a temperature check will be done, as well as monitoring for any visible signs of respiratory symptoms. If anybody poses such symptoms or elevated temperature, they would be managed separately. It is expected that once they have cleared the health assessment, that they would then board the transport that is provided specifically for them, and they would be taken straight from here to the designated facility for quarantine.
Quarantine is necessary for persons who are well with no symptoms of ill health but who may have been exposed to a communicable disease. It restricts the movement of healthy people who may develop a disease after possible exposure to an infectious agent like COVID-19. The individuals repatriated during the quarantine period will be monitored by healthcare specialists, including temperature checks and assessment of respiratory symptoms routinely for the entire quarantine period. Minister for Tourism, Information and Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, and Chairman for the National COVID-19 Response Committee, Honorable Dominic Fede, said the government remains committed to getting all St. Lucians home.
We applied a lot of pressure on the cruise lines to make sure that our citizens come home in the quickest possible time. Now we are bearing the cost as a government to do the quarantine. They are coming from the United States, and so we want to make sure that they are monitored for a couple of days. 2 weeks is the quarantine time, 14 days. And in monitoring them, the Ministry of Health officials will get a better handle on their health situation, and that will then allow us to allow them back into the community safe and sound with their loved ones. The good news is that a lot of the people which we have quarantined, we see a very low rate of transmission coming from our quarantine facilities. So if the trend continues, this batch of individuals are likely to come out with very limited COVID transmission. So we're delighted that they are home. We're thankful.
As part of the national COVID-19 response, quarantine centers have been set up in Saint Lucia using various hotels to facilitate the large numbers of returning nationals through the repatriation process, as well as any non-nationals that may arrive in the country. Institutional quarantine remains the standard for Saint Lucia. We hear from a Saint Lucian returnee on his experience amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
I believe I had a unique experience, unlike most of my colleagues, because of the departments I work with. I work with guest services. So up until yesterday, I was still working. I know that a lot of persons may have had cabin fever and all of that, but then particularly for me, it was a very good experience. I know that the company did everything that they could. Before we moved from our respective ships to the Carnival Glory, I mean, everybody was free to roam the ship as they would have wanted to. We were provided with meals and everything. The only downside is that when we moved from the other ships to Carnival Glory, because of the co-mingling, we had to move up in the level of security. So it moved up to drastic measures where you were quote unquote confined to a cabin, but you were still given the opportunity to go out, get vitamin D, socialize, of course with social distancing. I mean, I'm just thankful to be here.
The Department of External Affairs continues working with ambassadors to facilitate the safe return of nationals. This, however, is done ensuring that quarantine capacity is maintained. The government of St. Lucia reaffirmed its commitment to getting all St. Lucians stuck abroad due to the COVID-19 pandemic home at the soonest. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
Very glad to hear that we have some St. Lucians who wanted to come home, desperately wanted to come home. A lot of uncertainty when you're out in the clear blue, water, not knowing what your future is, what your government has planned out for you. And very thankful that the St. Lucian government, in collaboration with other agencies, international and otherwise, have made it so that our St. Lucians can come back home from the high seas. We do wish this batch of St. Lucian cruise line workers all the best as they go into quarantine, and we hope that in the next 14 days that they are cleared of COVID-19, they are cleared for any symptoms or signs of COVID-19, and they can be released. And speaking of which, we had last week 8 nationals being the 8 nationals' first batch of cruise line workers that were repatriated. They were placed in quarantine for the 14-day period, and they have since been released from quarantine. The 8 individuals showed no signs and symptoms of COVID-19, and they've been cleared. So all's well and good with the first batch. We hope that the second batch is has just the same outcome.
Oui, Jesse, encore pour un petit moment là, je dis ça c'est bonne nouvelle tout bonnement. Pour ça, nous mener en chai ces gens qui travaillent sous ces bateaux, nous mener au vie, qu'on nous bien ouais en rapport qui nous jouait date qui est décembre 19 en ces moun ça retourner et puis ou kayoué tout ça qui mettait en place les vini pour nous continuer combattre vermin Covid là. Là, au Kaiwe, M. Ragunanan, chef officier environnement, il était là, qui était dit nous, manière, yo même qu'après toutes ces précautions pour faire assurer bagay marcher bien. Qu'on dit, te cadeau, laissez moun sa quitter bateau, yo ka examiner yo ka faire assurer yo point la fièvre yo, ve date qui la fièvre yo pas haut, yo ka ve si yo ka prendre l'expiration bien, et puis après ça yo ka voye yo aller tout le monde ni pour ni masque, voye yo aller côté yo ka quarantine yo place quarantine dans hôtel là ko yo ka hier et là yo ka ni pour rester pour 14 jours encore ka sa raison pour ça c'est appel délai ou ni vermin et puis ou pas ka mouche piècine quoi yo ni pour faire assurer yo vo là et puis yo point test et examiner et les pour CG santé a déterminer après yo fait test en l'homme date qui après 14 jours ou ça vie caillou quoi bonne nouvelle tout bonnement et quand nous ka raconter à son mardi et bon matin nous ka faire ça encore nous ni en l'autre compagnie travailler ces bateaux qui doit là Kousa Carnaval Glory il a mené à peu près 27 lycéens vieux repatriés. C'est moun sa qui travaille sous ces bateaux. Quand ça c'est une bonne nouvelle encore. Même bagay là qui continuer quand nous kay ces gens département santé, nous kay SLASPA, nous kay police, nous kay département santé, tout ka vinn ensemble pour coordonner activité ça pour faire assurer nous continuer à combattre et nous empêcher famine ça s'immerger. Ou kay aussi songer quand nous ka parler de ça qui a fait encore sous passage ici à ces headquarters COVID-19 quand nous ka ba ces information ça pour savent connauiller en bagay pandémique ça. Ou kay changer aussi semaine passée 8 anciens moun nan qui étaient entrés, même ces gens qui travaillent en compagnie qui travaillent à bord bateau encore. C'est ça, yo trouvé quoi yo fait 14 jours et puis tout bagay tourne bien quoi yo voyé ces moun ça kayo quoi nous ka ouais effort qu'a fait pour mener chaque ces moun ça vie kay kon ou kay tan conversation ka dou la pan place côté qui plimer passer kayo même si il paye ça tout le monde voulait aller en famille et en pays expressement dans temps qu'on à présent. Ka continuer ba ou information qu'on j'ai cité de plus bonheur là vini pour affaires téléphone ou kay changer nous te fait annoncement ici à semaine passée date qui était ramassé à peu près $72 000 américains. Changer encore l'argent ça aller pour assister pour gagner équipement ça yo kouye PPE ça c'est équipement pour protéger ces gens travailleurs essentiels police ces gens ces gens qui travaillent à bord violence là ces gens qui travaillent là en la jole et puis c'est moun ça nurse docteur pour ces moun sa pehen ces équipements yo brisé on kay bien savent yo ka servi en chaisa les vini pour ka traiter moun et venir en contacter puis moun quoi jodia nous ga c'est dernier jour si ou peuvent faire une contribution encore sur l'autre pays à compte là Bank of Saint Lucia ça c'est Bank Saint Lucia limo à compte là yon 045 yon de yon. Et puis, nous compte là, c'est National Community Foundation. L'année Swift Code, si vous avez besoin ça aussi, Swift Code là, c'est BOSL LCLC. Où ça fait contribution ça, et qui aller loin tout bonnement pour assister ça qu'a fait ici. Changer encore nous donner téléphone ça dimanche Pâques. Nous avons fait à peu près $2.5 millions contribution moun fait pour date nous une information qui a sorti honorable Dominique Fédé c'est lui qui tête comité qui était responsable pour activité téléphone ça et puis il fait nous savent date pour date nous j'en ai à peu près amassé ces contributions ça moun pour mettre là yo amassé à peu près $1.8 millions. Quoi ça c'est un bon effort tout bonnement encore quand ils savent la ça ka aller la téléphone là ka aller pour soin monde qui vulnérable monde qui pauvre parmi nous et aussi pour gagner équipement comme était dit plus bonheur pour monde qui ka combattre monde qui devant travailler essentiel et ka aller pour ça quand il ka aller encore pour Anik Mouché mais c'est nous ka continuer combattre vermin et puis là dans chay qui ni pour faire et puis vermin ça encore nous commando pour wete sauver point jid pour toute information qui kabay mais pour date nous cadeau ça c'est côté nous à présent juste pour faut savent messieurs dames en la terre pour à présent nous ni à peu près 4 millions moi répéter monde qui a trouvé koyo affecté avec vermin corona ça. Et pour date nous hani à peu près 300 000 moun qui a mort. Quand nous il bon 295 85 excusez-moi mais ça c'est moun qui ja mort et grâce à Dieu nous pour connait pièce la mort ici. C'est pour ça yon c'est rapport nous jouer ou kaitan et puis démologiste là yo ka dit ou comme ça merci Dieu nous ka fait ces tests là ou ka ouais nous ni plus test qu'on avant mais à présent nous tan bon matin 55 en ces tests ça yo te avoué à levier et que tout négatif merci Dieu avant ça nous tenir 30 nous tenir 45 quoi pour date Saint Lucia a fait pareil nous là qu'a fait puis ça nous quoi nous a apporté à peu près 675 test Jafet Saint Lucia échanger encore yo ka mando sou trouver ko ka senti malade sou ka tousser et ben rien qu'on yo ka mando souple là ni c'est place clinique là on Saint Lucia ou ça entrer messieurs avec demander c'est moun pour ou venir pour point test ça pas tirer rien là tout ça ka aller pour combattre situation et quand même voix nous ka mando souple suivre protocole suivre les messieurs masse la distance sociale là sembler ensemble wete hodion dans l'autre ça qui plus important wete kayo avec sous sorte dehors laver la main ça bien important nous ca continuellement ca faut changer suivre guide par les autorités. Jesse.
Thanks for that. We just want to remind you out there going up and down, perhaps stopping at the supermarket or stopping somewhere you want to purchase liquor. We just want to remind you that the businesses allowed to sell liquor on island as provided under the curfew order are supermarkets, mini-marts, small grocery stores, wholesalers and gas stations. Please take note of that. So in places like restaurants and bars and so on, these places continue to remain closed. They are supposed to remain closed, and you're not supposed to be purchasing alcohol from there, all in an effort to discourage social distancing, social gatherings and things of that sort. Going back, we got this permission, we got this announcement from the Commerce Minister, Minister for Commerce, Industry, Investment, Enterprise Development and Consumer Affairs. And in his announcement of the lift of the liquor license suspension for many, most anticipated, some of the factors that he stated was whether the population had understood the need to practice social distancing.
True.
See the trust the government is putting in us?
Yes.
Assessing the gains and advances in the management of COVID-19. The trust they've placed in the Ministry of Health. And we've all seen how the Ministry of Health has pulled their weights in terms of managing COVID-19 in Saint Lucia. Another thing that they had to consider, I guess, was, you know, the trade-off between health measures and economic measures. We have the distillery, we have companies that distribute alcohol, and so, you know, you want to keep jobs. You know, you don't want to affect jobs. So, of course, that was also considered, you know, trying to balance the health measures that have to be taken in order for the country to stay safe from COVID-19, to discourage social gatherings and so on. We know alcohol brings people together. And, of course, they had to take into consideration the economic measures as well. And so we did get word from the Commerce Minister that the liquor license had been lifted. But going back to the point today, please take note, the businesses that are allowed to sell liquor as provided under the curfew order, supermarkets, mini-marts, small grocery stores, wholesalers, and gas stations. We are now due for a break. When we come back, a gentle reminder of the revised solid waste collection schedule. We have an update. We have a news report on the panel discussion, the recovery of Saint Lucia post-COVID and during COVID and post-COVID. So stay tuned for that information and more.
Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona together. let us win this war. Be a soldier for Saint Lucia. Together, let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice is you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for Saint Lucia. Together let us win this war. Saint Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, this is the COVID-19 response report for today, Tuesday, the 12th of May, 2020. We continue to bring you important updates, and I think the most important one as of today is because we got this press release yesterday. The report of some fake news that has been circulating, and it required the intervention of the Ministry of Education, Innovation, Gender Relations and Sustainable Development. And I read out the press statement. The Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations wishes to inform the public that the information being circulated on social media requesting the students of Form 2 and 4 to report to the Department for e-book devices did not originate from the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations and is incorrect. The department process is that students report their needs to their respective schools, which in turn will forward to the department for processing. The process has been working well so far and allows for students in all educational districts to be reached. All information from the Department of Education will be posted on the Department of Government's official websites. Please take note, there have been reports that there's this news circulating that students of Form 2 and Form 4 should report to the Department for e-book devices. And we just want to let you know that information coming from the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations is that this is incorrect and this news did not originate from the department. Just to read this line again, the information that is being circulated on social media requesting that students of Form 2 and Form 4 report to the Department for e-book devices did not originate from the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations and is incorrect. So if you have a child, if you have a ward who is in Form 2 or Form 4 and you have heard this news, please do not go down to the office of the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations. This news that you've been hearing is not real. And in this COVID-19 time, if this was a deliberate working of an individual, quite mischievous on their part.
Et puis, Justice, bien important qu'on nous a dit merci tellement pour vous qui écoutez nous, ou qui avez nous sur Internet, écoutez nous sur radio, avant un petit pause dans la nous vie avec nous, qu'on un développement qu'a fait ici à nous, qu'on information qu'a vini nous, c'est ça nous qu'a fait ici. Merci tellement pour attention. Là, nous avons un rapport, là, statement qu'a sorti le département éducation et innovation, parmi l'autre bagaille responsable pour développement sustainable. Il a dit nous là, l'année un rapport qui a situé sur médias sociaux, qui a dit qui est ministère, qui c'est ministre qui est responsable pour l'éducation, qui a demandé maman qui attendait l'école secondaire, qui en deuxième forme et bien quatrième forme pour venir en département côté yo même ça joindre un laptop. Et puis là, le ministère a dit ça pas vrai information, ça pas sorti du département éducation et il a dit date qui ça yo jamais été en place. C'est date qui ou n'importe situation péni ben conseil ou péni mener l'école en wet là ou hier et l'école là même à présent qu'il prend conseil ça et qui bail département et yo dou ça a travaillé bien, il a travaillé bien quand il voulait tenir courant. Pour la peine, il y a des pièces d'information département ni pour bail pièce information yo ni bail public like bail maman l'école avec parents ça ka département ka fait hod website yo ça c'est website département éducation et bien sur website gouvernement Saint Lucia à sur internet là qu'on a trouvé qu'on informé sur ni pièce question sur ni pièce conseil yo ka do fait en wetland en l'école là en wetland koya et puis l'ani moun l'école là ça pour faire yo a mettre bagay en place et pour la peine yo ka dit information ça pas sorti hot département éducation quand trouver qu'on informé moun ka trouver manière pour faire méchanceté même dans temps quoi à présent changer encore pièce conseil ministère a jadi yo ka mettre à sur website gouvernement et ben website département éducation si yo ni ou ka savent encore trouver qu'on informé pas quitter personne qu'on non et puis ça avec des pour pas si oui qu'on yo bien dit ou être là qu'on sorti comme une ko hier en bail l'école là et puis yo kay mener et ben yo kay voyer bail département éducation merci tellement pour attention.
Yeah, we're getting word. We have a news report on a panelist discussion that took place here in studio on Sunday night, talking about the recovery of Saint Lucia post-COVID-19, economic-wise. How are we going to pull through the effects, the crippling effects of this pandemic? We heard from the United Nations that, COVID-19, the shock of COVID-19 may be too much for small island developing states like Saint Lucia to handle. And they were referencing, small island SIDS like us are still reeling from climate-related challenges and even the toll on the tourism sector. I mean, tourism is Saint Lucia's lifeline. We look at external debt burdens. We look at complementary external debt suspension or relief programs. These things are all on the table right now as small countries like Saint Lucia continue to grapple with COVID-19. There are also concerns for tourism, consumer confidence, extended restrictions on international movement of people. Will we get the tourism that we once, will we enjoy tourism as we once did, or will we have to work tourism from the ground up? The lack of diversification of our other sectors is a factor. Access to funding, at a zero interest rate is also something that is being discussed at an international level for small island developing states like Saint Lucia. So the panel discussion on our recovery, the economic recovery of Saint Lucia that was held on Sunday night right here at the GIS studios, being moderated by economist Titus Preville, was very timely. And I just want to go to that news report that was prepared by Anicia Antoine so you could get an understanding, a summary of what took place on Sunday night. Take a look.
The COVID-19 pandemic is expected to have a lasting effect on investment and the economy. The COVID-19 Roadmap to Recovery, the Role of Investment panel discussion focused on the review of the economic impact of the pandemic on St. Lucia whilst charting the road to recovery. The panel of experts weighed in on the state of the economy, the medium-term development strategy, the support for local investments, and St. Lucia's capital expenditure and investments projects. Tommy Descat, Chief Economist at the Department of Economic Development, spoke on the key areas currently being focused on in the medium-term development strategy.
We think that some of what we try to achieve are structural, try to remedy structural issues in the economy that has been there since post-independence. And so essentially pre or post-COVID, this will remain. And so the government needs to still continue these initiatives. However, we see the MTDS now being positioned as sort of coming and give a stimulus during this time. So it's really about the issue of timing. If we fast track some of these initiatives, particularly infrastructure projects, we have a very ambitious road infrastructure project. And again, building climate resilience to infrastructure. We have a hurricane season, it's just around the corner. So we see the medium-term development strategy now doubling up as a sort of a stimulus in the short term by providing an injection of resources into the economy for capital projects, but also helping us and putting us on a platform that we could have a quicker recovery.
The chief economist explained that the majority of the initiatives will be financed through multilateral development banks, ensuring transparency in public procurement processes. Descat also noted the importance of ensuring that the projects are labor-intensive.
I would like to say that most of the projects are at the commencement of the cycle of the construction phase. And that's generally the period where it's very labor intensive. And so we see that you won't just have projects happening and it's just a few persons. We anticipate that because of the magnitude and the size of the projects that we'll be embarking upon, it will absorb a significant supply of the excess labor that we see in the economy.
President of the Chamber of Commerce, Karen Fontenelle-Peter, explained that the Chamber of Commerce is in the process of developing investment avenues for local investors.
Private citizens, I'm certain, have projects who are in the stages of negotiation. Maybe a government ministry is holding up some part of it. So we need to, and we will actually, we are proposing a local investment forum, investor forum, the chamber that is, where our local investors can come and present and identify those projects that they have in the pipeline and trying to get jump started for the longest while. And for one reason or the other, it's been held up, whether it's by the ministry or whatever. So some sort of intervention would be required so we could get our own private citizens who have those projects to develop, get it going as well.
The president of the Chamber of Commerce commended the government on the measures being taken towards the recovery of the economy post-COVID-19. From the Government Information Service, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you very much for that, Anicia. And going back to that panel discussion on Sunday night, I remember, the statement that, construction will be the shot in the arm for us in the interim. We see capital projects being allowed to continue at this point, and we cannot even begin to state, there will be a level of stimulus for the population, stimulus in the economy with these capital projects resuming and continuing and starting, because they're all shovel ready according to the chief economist at the Economic Development Department. That was the panel and information on the panel discussion that was held on Sunday night, just giving us information on how we will be recovering, how we can recover, how can the economy bounce back, revive, be resuscitated from the effects of COVID-19. It will be no easy task, but the government of Saint Lucia has endeavored to do so, to take on the mammoth task of bringing back our economy to where it was. And from what I'm hearing, they're talking about accelerated growth. So the effort is accelerated growth, bringing back St. Lucia's economy to where it was, and if not to a better place. And this hopefully will be done through the medium-term development strategy that the government did launch in February. Of course, it coincided with the onset of COVID-19 cases and our management of it in St. Lucia. And just to state the 7 national development pillars that are placed in that development strategy document. It includes building productive capacity and expanding growth opportunities, building strong institutions that are a platform for growth and development, infrastructure, connectivity, energy. Everybody's talking about energy costs, energy efficiency, a key for growth and competitiveness, adaptation for environmental sustainability, climate change, disaster vulnerability, social transformation, building social resilience and social capital, enhancing the labor force through education, training and workforce development, and very important, health and wellness. So all of these aspects, these are the 7 national development pillars on which the medium-term development strategy is standing on. And at the same time, these efforts will be achieving our sustainable development goals in that same vein. So I'm very excited to see how this medium-term development strategy rolls out, Carlton, especially as we are, on the cusp of recovering. We're trying to recover from COVID-19. Here's to hoping that our economy is able to bounce back.
Definitely, Jesse. Encore nous dit merci. Yon nan se bagay lan ou kay sav hier sou te ka suivre puis nous teni ici dans le studio et puis nous un économiste il ka le pa non monsieur Tommy Descat, c'est lui qui est chef économiste département économique ici en Saint Lucia. Et là ou kay changer ici aussi teni un programme qui nous ka parler à sou ça fait dimanche soir côté nous en panel monde qui qualifie un département là vini ka parler à sous situation nous en dans à présent expressement et puis Covid mais ça qui est bien important discussion ka aller dans direction ligne pour faire ça ou kaitan parler di MTDS qui c'est qui plan gouvernement teni bay payer avant Covid gouvernement teni yon plan et plan ça t'est supposé chaque gouvernement pour juste l'année 2023 4 l'année et puis ou kay bien changer sous te ka suivre ça qui te ka aller plan même te yo commencer plan ça et puis yo mouché qui ça planté en février indépendance yo mené plan d'or pour moucher et tout le monde ça y est mais Covid vini et question où était les nous parler ba c'est économiste là et l'automne ça qui était fait dimanche soir plan c'est qui ça à présent quand ça te en place yon nan se bagay la gouvernement te ha ka mette attention yon lay plan même désigné c'était pour tout bagay du bout à sous 7 pilotes ou bien tant Jesse l'homme non c'est pilote ça mais à part de ça yo séparé en 6 3 économique et 3 social et ça c'est bagay ça supposé adresser bagay kon développement bâti kay infrastructure ko yo gadi agricole tourisme et l'autre plan c'est social éducation santé et puis les vini pour sécurité peuple là bon ça y a c'est gouvernement tout fait quoi dans situation on la terre manière y à présent qui manière nous kay via sous pied nous et yon se bagay ça autant dans discussion c'est gouvernement plan ça été ni à présent il teni pour commencer travailler sous plan ça plus vite possible parce que ça yo ka catchile qui kay fait là vini pour économie cette ici un petit pour ça pour sey devant un petit bagay pour chayer qualité problème Covid jamais né yo kay ni pour mettre en chay ces bagay ça en place et sous te ka coûter nous hier yon nan se bagay la économiste là dit nous c'est date qui en dans agrément et c'est place ça nous kay hen là pour assister nous pour développement l'année agrément dans toutes ces contrats ça a dit si nous trouver qu'on nous dans état de sous-coût si nous trouver qu'on nous dans mauvais temps nous ça servi dans c'est l'argent ça pour aider nous vier recouvert ça nous rappelle les pour vier mais économie à sous pied quand tout parmi monde qui parle au Kaiten Manze Karen Fondinel Peter Lee qui président chambre de commerce et yon nan se bagay la ka dit yo même kay vinn plan yo pour qui manière yo kay aider mam yo parce que yo même ni pour contribuer les vini pour nous ka vier nous besoin économie ka vier marché quand plus activité qui fait un pays quand il y a un bénéfice nous toutes parce que nous besoin ouais travail là et quand ou kay bien tant j'attends avant ou qu'attend monde ka di contraction et parce que ça qui besoin économie à présent nous besoin ouais l'argent sec nous besoin ouais l'argent ka circuler nous besoin monde ka travail et qui manyo ka fait ça les yo do chain distance les yo do pays a fermé les business pas ka produit le pas ça hen l'argent sec ça quoi ou qui ça y est quoi panel là un rapport ouais attention c'était pour moucher qui manière gouvernement ka fait ça et encore comment dit yo présenter plan plan parmi l'autre bagaille kay mouché 7 pilotes gouvernement vle de bout en lay il y a de santé sécurité éducation ou ni pour d'accord messieurs pièce côté en la terre pièce on pas jamais plané pour une pandémie comme ça quand ou ka ouais ça y est plan et discussion tout cas dans une direction qui manière nous ka supporter économie à présent pas dit temps Covid là nous ni pour ou abattre nous ni pour travail pour éliminer qui manière on ka faire ça en même là ouvrir l'économie et stimuler pour moun travail. Et c'est là nous allons aller en direction ça. Quoi, messieurs dames encore, nous allons il est bien important pour vous même tiens yeux ouverts, écoutez et qui ça vous même ça fait écoutez côté nous parce que nous toutes qui ouvrent quoi qui ou pas ouvrent quoi nous toutes involvés, nous toutes qu'à trouver qu'on nous affectés. Mais bon bagay là c'est gouvernement tenir un plan en nous qui manière plan qu'à travail mais on n'est pas d'accord nous caille bouisin parce que la terre a souffert as a result of the pandemic corona. Yes.
Thank you so very much for that. We are rounding off for the morning. This has been another installment of the COVID-19 response report. We thank you so much. We do see the individuals who are always watching on the online, on the Facebook platform, as well as our YouTube channel. So we do thank you for watching live every single morning. If I name names, some people might feel bad that I didn't name them or I missed out. So I just want to let you all know that we do see you and we do appreciate your following. And we do take from you. We do take some of your queries, your concerns, and we pitch it to the interviewees that we have coming in. We do seek further clarification when you do have identify and state your concerns. So do know that we are listening. We may not always be able to respond to the large volume of concerns, queries, and greetings that we receive, but we want to let you know that we do appreciate it all. Just some bulletin information. Again, all faith-based organizations are required to prepare a COVID-19 response plan regarding the new measures stipulated within the COVID-19 protocols for community and faith-based organizations. This plan must be submitted to and approved by the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice, Local Government and Empowerment at the soonest. Another bulletin information there, revised solid waste collection schedule. The public is advised that once weekly solid waste collection service remains in effect. However, some adjustments are required in order to facilitate the timely collection of solid waste. The new collection schedule for the affected communities is as follows. The following communities within the Castries Inner Collection Zone, your waste collection day is Wednesday, and that is York Hill, La Panse, Carabel, VG Peninsula on the airport side. Thank you so very much for watching this morning's COVID-19 response report. Today is Tuesday, the 12th of May 2020. We still continue efforts to maintain managing and containing COVID-19 in Saint Lucia. We do thank you for tuning in and watching, and we do hope you continue to stay tuned to NTN Live as we continue to bring you more updates throughout the day about COVID-19. This is the Information Command Center, and from there, I'm just wishing you a wonderful day. My name is Jessie Leonce, Carlton Cyril, and on behalf of the entire production department, do have an enjoyable day. Goodbye.